Economics, Standard 12, Unit 5, Morning Economics continued. Inflation. Dear students, we learnt what is inflation and the important two types of inflations on the basis of speed and the basis of inducement. We learnt the inflations on the basis of speed, like creeping inflation, running inflation, walking inflation, and galloping inflation. Creeping, walking, running, and galloping inflations. We also learned cost pull inflation and demand pull inflation too. Let us learn today inflation on the basis of inducement and causes of inflation. So inflation on the basis of inducement, the first and the foremost thing is currency inflation. So first is currency. So we induced it. So we have to just say inflation on the basis of inducement. On the basis of inducement. So on the basis of inducement, first and the foremost is currency. Currency inflation. And under this currency inflation, you just think of this. When we have, that is, the excess supply of money in circulation causes currency inflation. That is rise in price. We know what is inflation. Too much of money chasing very few goods. So too few goods. And remember, the quantity of money increases, but whereas the price also increases. So if you have the excessive supply of money, results in rise in prices. So currency inflation occurs. Second, credit inflation. When banks are just very liberal in lending credit, and automatically the money supply increases and thereby rise in prices. Okay, so banks are very liberal in lending credit. Automatically, the supply of money increases, which results in rise in price. So that is credit inflation. So second one is credit inflation. Third, the third one, just remember, deficit-induced inflation. The deficit budget is generally financed through, that is, printing of currencies by the Reserve Bank of India. So when there is more of printing of currencies, automatically it results in rise in prices. So deficit-induced inflation. So third one, deficit. And fourth, so currency inflation, credit inflation, and the third, deficit-induced inflation. Fourth, scarcity-induced inflation. Scarcity of goods and services, either due to fall in production or due to hoarding or black marketing. The product producers and the sellers, due to black marketing or hoarding or due to fall in production, there occurs scarcity of goods and services. Automatically, this pushes the price level. So, the goods and services are raised, the prices of the goods and services go high. This has happened in Peninsula in 2018. So, scarcity induced. And fifth, just think of another important point, profit-induced inflation. When the firms aim for higher profit, they fix the price which is higher than as usual, higher than margin. So prices go up. So profit-induced. Profit-induced inflation. Profit-induced inflation. Sixth point, the most important, tax-induced inflation. So increases in indirect taxes like excise duty, custom duty, and other taxes, sales tax, etc., lead to a rise in price. For example, petrol and diesel. This is called what? Tax inflation. Do you understand? So that is increase in indirect taxes like excise duty and customs duty and sales taxes, which lead to rise in prices. So every now and then the prices of the petrol and diesel increases. It's only due to the tax inflation. So we have seen the inflation basis on the inducement, currency inflation, credit inflation, and then we have deficit-induced inflation, profit-induced inflation, scarcity-induced inflation, and finally tax-induced inflation. So currency inflation when the money flow is more, and credit inflation when the bank is just lenient in lending credit, and deficit when there is deficit occur in the financed budget, then automatically RBI issues or printing currencies. And profit, the firms and the industries aim for profit, higher profit, and so they increase the price level. And scarcity, when goods and services are scarce in nature, it's due to the hoarding or black marketing, or that is due to the fall in production, automatically prices rise. And tax-induced inflation, increase in taxes like sales tax and that is customs duties, as well as we have the indirect taxes, that is excise duty, customs duty, and sales taxes. Automatically prices of that goods increases. For example, petrol and diesel. The price of the petrol and diesel increases every now and then. It is called as tax inflation. Okay, now we have just seen the two types of inflations based on the speed and as well as based on the inducement. Let us see the causes of the inflation. Causes. So causes of the inflation. So after we have seen on the basis of the inducement, that is, we have just seen causes of the inflation. So we just go for causes and the reasons. That's what? Increase in money supply. So increase in money supply leads to increase in growth rate of nominal money. Okay, so automatically what happens? The higher is the rate of inflation also. So when money supply is higher, that is the growth rate of money, nominal money supply is higher, inflation increases. So that's what we call it as increase in money supply. Increase in money supply. And the second point, just you can think of the another very important one, that is the increase in consumer spending, and another one is that is increase in disposable income. So increase in disposable income automatically increases the demand for that is goods and services. So when there is a demand for goods and services, there will be rise in national income. So rise in national income results in rise in prices too. Rise in national income or reduction in taxes or reduction in the savings of the people. Okay, so increase in disposable income, that is when the disposable income of the people increases, it raises their demand for goods and services. So disposable income increases, demand for goods and services also increases. With a rise in national income or reduction of taxes or reduction of savings in the people. So that is disposable. Okay, so automatically prices also increase. So inflation increases due to the disposable income. So second is disposable income. Now third you have to remember, that is another important one, that is increase in consumer spending. So the demand for goods and services increases when they are given credit, when they are given in credit to buy goods on hire purchase and installment basis. So when people are given the freedom to buy on hire purchase on installment basis, then goods and services, also the demand for goods and services increase. So when the demand for goods and services increases, automatically price also increases. Inflation occurs. So increase in consumer spending. Increase in consumer spending. And consumer spending. So that is another important point. Okay. Now the fourth important point is cheap money policy. So cheap money policy is the policy of credit expansion. It also leads to increase in the money supply, which raises the demand for goods and services in the economy. So credit supply increases, that is, the credit expansion. Also increase the goods and services, increase the money level, which raises the demand for goods and services. So that we can just take it as cheap money policy. And the fifth important one is increase in public expenditure. The government spends a certain amount of money for developmental activities and social welfare programs. That also cause rise in prices. So we have cheap money policy and public expenditure. So cheap money policy and fifth point is public expenditure. So remember, under the causes of inflation, we have seen increase in money supply, disposable income, increase in consumer spending and the cheap money policy, and the increase in public expenditures. So all these are certain important points. And then you can remember the other important points are deficit financing and mounting of expenses, that is automatically the government borrows money from the public. And so there is aggregate, what we call it is to meet the mounting expenses, the government borrows money from the public or print more notes. So it increases aggregate demand in relation to aggregate supply and ends in rise in prices. Okay, so that is another important point. So the deficit financing. And the seventh important point is that is black assets activities and like the hoarding and the black assets, saving of wealth in a illegal way. And eighth one is repayment of public debts by the government. And ninth one, that is increase in exports also lead to. So more of goods are produced to export to other countries. So automatically the goods that are in the interior of the country will be just having a demand. So when there is a great demand for goods, prices rise. So automatically we can just call it that even that is increase in exports results in inflation. So these are certain important causes for the increase of inflation in an economy. So the first cause is currency, that is increase in money supply, and second one is increase in disposable income, and third one is that is increase in consumer spending, and fourth cheap money policy, and fifth that is public expenditure, increase in public expenditure, and sixth deficit financing, seventh black assets and hoarding and the money, other activities, and eighth repayment of public debts, and ninth increase in exports are the main causes for the inflation. Let us continue in the next class.